I heard the splash before I felt the cold sting of the wine running down my neck. Red streaks slid down my white blouse as my sister, Madison, held the empty glass like a trophy, her chest rising with this wild, furious pride. We were in her renovated craftsman home in Portland, Oregon, her pride and joy, surrounded by exposed beams, overpriced pendant lights, and, apparently, the full support of our parents. "You have until sunrise to get out of my house," she shouted. My mother gasped, not at the wine, not at the outburst, but at me, like I had somehow provoked the attack by existing. My father folded his arms, nodding in agreement. And me? I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't grab a napkin. I just reached into my pocket, pulled out a small silver key, dropped it gently on the table so it rang through the silence, and said, "Then you have 60 seconds. They had no idea what those words meant. They would. Let me back up for a second, because no one ends up dropping ultimatums over dinner without a long, ugly path leading there. My name is Katie. I'm 31. I work in digital operations, cleaning up messy companies, organizing chaos, streamlining systems. Basically the person businesses call when everything is on fire. Funny how I could fix everything except my own family. I grew up being the quiet one, the sensitive one, the one everyone assumed would crumble first. Meanwhile, Madison, the golden child, could do no wrong. She got the bigger bedroom, the prettier clothes, the louder praise. I learned how to disappear so she could shine. If this hits home, I whisper even now, tell me where you're watching from. Maybe it's a thing for some families, loving the kid who fights for attention more than the kid who stops asking for it. Either way, I learned early what loyalty looked like in our house, one-directional, conditional, and loud enough that neighbors probably heard it. After college, I bounced between jobs trying to find something stable. Madison, on the other hand, married a realtor and bought this house at 27. Not with her own savings, no. My parents helped, which was their polite way of saying they handed her a down payment so generous it still made my stomach twist years later. "Don't be jealous," Mom had told me. "Your time will come." It never did. When I struggled with rent after getting laid off, they didn't offer me a penny. Instead, they said, "Be more like your sister. She plans ahead." The irony? Madison had never planned ahead a day in her life. She just smiled pretty and asked for what she wanted. And unlike me, she always got it. But despite everything, I took the spare room in her house when she invited me, because Portland rent was unforgiving, and I was rebuilding myself after a brutal job transition. I paid rent. I cleaned. I bought groceries. I respected her space. But to Madison? I was a guest. A burden. A temporary inconvenience in the house she believed she alone had earned. And tonight's dinner was the match tossed into a room full of gasoline. Madison had invited me, my parents, and a few of her friends for what she called a family reset dinner. I should have known those words were a trap. The evening started fake nice. Soft music. Candlelight. Overly poured wine. Madison bragging about her new promotion at the property management firm where she handled high-value accounts. I wanted to be happy for her. Really. Until she said the line that felt rehearsed. "I just want everyone to see how far I've come. Not all of us can live off handouts." My fork froze in midair. I didn't live off handouts. I never had. But to her, my living in the spare room, even while paying rent, made me charity. Mom didn't correct her. Dad didn't blink. I felt heat rise in my chest. But I swallowed it, told myself to just get through the night. Then she brought out the wine, the expensive kind. She refilled everyone else's glasses but left mine empty. "A toast," she said. "To taking charge of your life. To not making excuses." Her eyes flicked toward me. At that moment, I knew this wasn't a dinner. This was an ambush dressed in linen napkins. Here it is. I didn't know yet that she had planned what would happen next. Dessert wasn't even served before Madison leaned back, crossed her arms, and said in this rehearsed sigh, "Katie, we need to talk about your living situation." My stomach dropped. Her friends quieted, hungry for drama. My parents straightened in their chairs. Madison continued, "It's time for you to leave. I can't keep supporting you." Supporting me? I was paying rent. And utilities. And groceries. And somehow she'd twisted it into charity. I tried to stay calm. "I already told you, I have interviews lined up. I just need." "No," she cut me off. "You've lived here long enough. Sunrise. That's your deadline." Mom nodded. "It's for your own good, honey." Dad added, "You can't rely on Madison forever." Forever? I'd been there 11 months. And that's when Madison grabbed her wine glass, slowly, dramatically, and tipped it over my head. Cold liquid slid into my collar and down my spine. "There," she said. "Now you'll remember this moment." Her friends gasped, but no one intervened. I felt my cheeks burn. My throat tightened. My hands went ice cold on the tablecloth. If you've ever been humiliated in front of people who should have defended you, I'd ask anyone listening, comment, because that pain stays with you. But standing there, dripping and shaking, I realized something. They didn't expect me to fight back. That was their first mistake. I walked out of the dining room, past the stunned faces, and into the hallway where my bag hung on a hook. My fingers curled around the key in my pocket, the small silver one I'd been holding earlier. This wasn't just any key. It was the key Madison had forgotten she gave me 2 months ago, the backup key to the storage room she kept locked. The room where she handled her high-value account documents. I'd only seen inside once, when she needed help reorganizing. But what I saw then had stayed with me, thick folders, handwritten notes, invoices that didn't match the electronic copies she showed her firm. Overwritten receipts. Duplicate charges. A whole binder labeled temp files, do not scan. It wasn't enough to accuse her of anything. But it told me one thing clearly. Madison wasn't half as clean or organized as she presented herself. And she definitely wasn't ready for someone like me, someone who worked in digital operations, someone trained to notice inconsistencies, to hold access to her secrets. At the time, I shrugged it off. Her life wasn't my business. But after tonight? After she drenched me in wine, told me to pack my life, and weaponized our parents against me? Let's just say, I remembered that room. And I remembered something else. Madison's firm had recently sent me a hiring inquiry. They were expanding. They needed someone who specialized in system audits. And they didn't know Madison had a sister. Not yet. I walked back into the dining room, heart pounding but strangely calm. Everyone stared at me, wine-soaked, humiliated, silent. Madison smirked. What? You going to cry? I shook my head. No, I said softly. Then louder, I'm done begging. Those words, "I'm done begging," are the moment everything inside me shifted. My voice example line for the turning point? There it is. I placed the silver key on the table. The metallic clink echoed. Madison's smirk twitched. She recognized it immediately. My parents looked confused, but Madison? She went pale. She whispered, "Where did you get that?" "You gave it to me," I said. "Remember? When you needed help cleaning up your files?" Her jaw clenched. I added, "You might want to check what's in that room before you kick out the one person who understands how your system works." A long silence. A heavy one. Her friends stared, confused but intrigued. For anyone out there who's ever had that moment, you know the one, where you stop trying to earn love from people who weaponize it? I'd ask my viewers. Tap like so this story reaches someone who needs it. Madison finally spoke. "You wouldn't dare." But she didn't know what I would or wouldn't do. Not anymore. I didn't need to threaten her. I didn't need to expose her. Not yet. I simply needed to remind her that I wasn't powerless. That night, after everyone went to bed, well, tried to, I sat quietly in my room and crafted a plan with 3 simple goals. 1. Protect myself legally. I documented everything: the wine incident, the eviction threat, the harassment. I saved voice memos, screenshots of texts, photos of the table where the key was placed. Not for revenge, just for evidence. 2. Give Madison a chance to do the right thing. Before going nuclear, I wanted to see if she would choose honesty when faced with consequences. 3. Reclaim my life. I applied to her firm using my middle name, Kate Lawson, instead of Katie Lawson. Same resume, same experience, no family link. I'd let my work speak for itself. And I reached out to their HR director, the one who'd emailed me months ago, saying I was open to an audit assignment. They replied in minutes. They needed someone immediately. And yes, the assignment would include reviewing document practices for the Property Accounts Division. Madison's division. Here's something I tell anyone who listens to stories like mine. Sometimes revenge isn't chasing someone. It's building a life so structured and stable that their chaos collapses under its own weight. And sometimes, you're simply the mirror that shows them the mess they made. If you're still with me, I'd say to viewers, subscribe for more stories like this one. Because this was the part where everything tightened. A week later, HR invited me on site for a trial audit day. I walked into the sleek downtown Portland office building wearing a clean blazer, calm posture, and a name badge that read Kate Lawson. No one recognized me. Not even Madison. She was too busy arguing with a coworker about a missing invoice, her voice sharp and frantic. I watched her from a distance as I was escorted to a conference room. Then HR handed me a stack of sample files, guess whose, and asked for a preliminary assessment. Within 10 minutes, the pattern emerged. Duplicate charges. Overwritten numbers. Inconsistent logs. Things that might be clerical mistakes, or might not. By noon, HR asked Madison to bring her storage files to the conference room. She walked in, froze when she saw me, then looked down at my badge. "You," she hissed. "Me," I said calmly. HR looked between us. "You two know each other?" Madison scrambled. "She's my sister. She can't audit me. This is a conflict, this is. HR raised a hand. "We didn't know. But Katie's preliminary notes show serious concerns." Madison's face drained of color. I didn't speak. Not in anger. Not in pettiness. I simply explained the inconsistencies using neutral, professional language. No accusations. Just facts. Facts she couldn't outrun. When HR asked to see the temp files, do not scan binder, Madison dropped it. Papers spilled across the table, duplicates, corrections, things she didn't want anyone to see. I didn't gloat. I didn't even smile. I just sat back and watched the lies unwind. For anyone who's ever had someone try to bury them, I'd say softly, remember, truth has a way of rising. By the end of the day, Madison was placed on administrative review. Not fired. Not destroyed. But finally accountable. And she knew I was the reason the curtain had been pulled back. That night, Madison stormed into her house, the house I was still living in until I found my own place. She didn't scream this time. She just stood in the doorway of my room and whispered, "Why did you do this to me?" I looked her straight in the eyes. I didn't. You did this to yourself. She hated that answer. Over the next 2 weeks, she spiraled quietly. The admin review tightened around her. She stopped having friends over. She tiptoed around me like I was a ghost she couldn't confront. Meanwhile, I got an offer letter from her firm. Full-time. Salary higher than any job I'd ever had. A relocation stipend. A signing bonus. And HR asked if I'd be comfortable onboarding in a different department to avoid conflict. I said yes. And then I moved into my own apartment downtown, sunny, clean, mine. When I packed, Madison stood by the door, chewing her lip. She whispered, "You're leaving?" "I always was," I said. "You just gave me a deadline." She flinched. But I meant it kindly. Because despite everything, I wasn't angry anymore. I was finally free. Sometimes I think back to that wine-soaked dinner and see it differently. I used to see humiliation. Betrayal. A sister who wanted me gone. Now, I see a push. A hard one. A cruel one. But a push I needed. I built a life without begging. I earned a job without hiding. I walked away without slamming the door. And Madison? She's still figuring out who she is without an audience cheering her on. We text occasionally, surface-level things. Holiday plans. Weather updates. Nothing deep. And that's okay. Family doesn't always heal neatly. Sometimes it just stops hurting. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. Not everyone who throws you out is your enemy. And not everyone who shelters you is your friend. Sometimes the people who push you away are unknowingly pointing you toward the life you were supposed to build all along. And sometimes the smallest thing, a key, a folder, a single moment of clarity, is all you need to remember your worth. If my story touched you, or reminded you of a moment when you finally chose yourself, comment and subscribe for more stories like this one. Because trust me, your sunrise doesn't start when someone kicks you out. It starts when you walk out by choice.